It sounds like a perfect setup. High-powered executive turned FBI mole, bringing down the largest price-fixing conspiracy in U.S. history. But is the insider up to the job?
I didn't want a career of being undercover, and I just wanted it over with.
Every day, I would worry about it. I'd say, this could be the end. Today it could be the end.
The mole is keeping secrets, not just from his company, but from the FBI. And it's destroying his sanity.
I lost my identity. I really felt strongly that I was better off dead than alive.
Going undercover, using disguise and deception, is the only way to take down the world's most dangerous criminals. But for those who choose the double life, success comes at a price. August 9th, 1995. It's 6 o'clock on a warm summer morning in central Illinois. A young executive for a Fortune 500 company is up early. In the garage of his $1 million home, he turns on the engine to his car. But instead of heading to work, he's preparing to do the unthinkable.
I remember having a picture. I remember having a picture of my family there and just was really hoping just to put all this to an end for everybody.
Mark Whitacre never imagined that going undercover in his own company would lead to this. Decatur, Illinois, 1992. The FBI is launching an investigation that will evolve into the biggest antitrust case in U.S. history. The white-collar crime involves Archer Daniels Midland, the world's largest grain processor. In fact, ADM sells itself as supermarket to the world.
They make the ingredients that go into popsicles and pepperoni and baby food. Virtually any packaged food that you want to buy has an ADM product in it.
It's a multi-billion-dollar company with powerful ties that reach all the way to the White House. The FBI's case began with an ADM executive named Mark Whitacre. The 35-year-old businessman claims to have received a blackmail threat from a Japanese competitor. The agents have no reason not to believe him.
He was a very credible witness. As a matter of fact, he appeared to be a lot more credible than a lot of people we would have come into the FBI and make claims, you know.
But this credible witness has something to hide. Mark Whitacre is president of an ADM division producing lysine, an obscure chemical that makes livestock grow more rapidly. But there's a contamination problem in his plant. Until it's fixed, it's costing this international powerhouse $7 million a month.
There was definitely a lot of pressure, and also would have been quite embarrassing to be president of a division and a plant be closed down and go back to the lab for a year or two to perfect it.
Whitacre cooks up a scheme to buy himself some time. Simply put, he lies. He tells his boss that he got a call from a Japanese competitor. Whitacre says the caller told him the plant had been sabotaged, and for $10 million, he can make the problem disappear.
I thought that once we had the plant running ourselves, I thought the allegation would just eventually go away.
And they want $10 million.
Whitacre's boss buys the story, but unfortunately for Whitacre, ADM management decides to call in the feds, and Whitacre learns that the FBI will be looking into his claim.
Now the FBI's there, and opened a whole can of worms was open, so that little white lie definitely initiated a tremendous mess.
November 4th, 1992. The FBI decides to take a closer look at Mark Whitacre and his sabotage claim. Special Agent Brian Shepard, assigned to the case, arrives at Whitacre's home. His first impression is that the young executive seems nervous.
How are you? Good evening.
I came to the house, and he was very excited and energized.
Let's keep our voices down just a bit. I believe ADM will allow the house, but please come
And
on
he
in.
whispered
Thank
to me that he thought his house was all bugged by ADM and that anything I said could be recorded by them.
Shepard hooks up a recording device to the Whitacre's phone line. If the extortionist calls, Whitacre is to tape the conversation.
Thank you.
Afterwards, as Shepard heads to the car, Whitacre makes a crucial decision.
Ryan.
Calling out to the agent, he says there's more to the story.
Let's discuss this in my car, sir. Thank you.
Whitacre tells the FBI that the real crime is being committed by his own company, ADM. He tells the agent that not long after his plant began operating, his boss assigned another division president to show Whitacre how ADM does business. Terry Wilson is known as a tough and ruthless negotiator.
He said that Terry was going to be a mentor to me, to show me the ropes, to show me how ADM does business. And that's when the price fixing started.
Whitacre explains that in the spring of 1992, ADM entered into a price-fixing conspiracy with its foreign competitors in Japan and South Korea. They each agreed to set prices artificially high and keep production down. It's an arrangement guaranteed to bring in big money by ultimately cheating consumers in the grocery store aisle. It's also a blatant violation of U.S. law.
In order to get everyone on board.
It is companies using their power as producers to ultimately rip off their customers by making sure that no one actually competes.
We keep it to the percent we want.
It's a brilliant and profitable plan that will mean millions of dollars for ADM.
Absolutely. Control the growth. That's great.
At first, Whitacre is shocked, but he soon agrees to play along.
I started rationalizing and saying, well, everybody must be doing it, and started accepting it. Even though I didn't feel 100% comfortable with it, I did start accepting it.
Special Agent Shepard is amazed at what he's hearing.
He began telling me about people, events, incidences that had happened regarding price fixing. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know really what I had at first.
Shepard shares the news with his supervisor, Dean Paisley. The agents agree. First, they must verify Whitacre's claims about the price fixing. Their plan is to get Whitacre to record a few conversations. If the FBI can get initial evidence that suggests a conspiracy, they'll launch an investigation.
I thought this was something that would be a few days, make a couple calls, and it would be over with.
November 9th. Just 5 days after Whitacre disclosed ADM's darkest secret, he meets Shepard in the parking lot of a hotel across town from ADM's headquarters.
I can remember pulling up in the hotel, in Decatur, walking in the lobby, and it was nerve-wracking because I knew I was going to be the first tape being made.
From a payphone in the hotel lobby, Whitacre calls one of ADM's co-conspirators. He records the conversation with a handheld tape recorder.
Hey, Mark Whitacre here.
The call was not detailed, but at least it established some means of credibility. We needed to put aside everything else and pursue this case.
We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.
But when he's asked to keep making tapes, Whitacre suddenly turns cold.
I didn't want a career as being an undercover agent. 2 or 3 weeks of James Bond was enough, and I just wanted it to go away.
November 13th, 1992. A high-level executive has tipped off the FBI to an international price-fixing conspiracy. But when the FBI tries to use Mark Whitacre as a mole inside his own company, their new informant wants to back out. Whitacre tells a new lie. He says ADM is getting out of the price-fixing game.
He was scared of losing his job. He was scared of not being able to provide for his family. I think that he was scared about his future.
I saw a chairman that had Gorbachev visit Decatur, and chairman that could pick up the phone and talk to U.S. presidents, and I saw a very, very politically powerful company, and I just felt like they could really make my life a living hell.
Whitacre even tells his FBI handler, Brian Shepard, that he's considering suicide. The agent doesn't buy it.
I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but in all the conversations I'd had with him, I felt that he was just trying to make another excuse to shake me loose.
Frustrated, the FBI agents ask him to take a lie detector test. Whitacre fails twice. The FBI now knows not only that he lied about the extortion plot, but that criminal activity is rampant at ADM. And the agents remind him that the tape he's made doesn't just implicate his company, it implicates Whitacre himself. They give him a choice.
It's either we're going after Mark Whitacre, or Mark Whitacre's cooperating, we're going after ADM, and here's your choice, and here's your minute to make that decision. This decision has to be made tonight.
Facing prosecution for his own role in the conspiracy, he finally agrees to go along.
It was frightening, but I really felt like there was no way out.
The ADM executive signs an agreement. In exchange for his cooperation, he will not face charges for his role in the conspiracy. With an operative on the inside, the FBI's plan is simple. Get the goods on corporate high flyers such as Mick Andreas, the vice chairman, and Terry Wilson, a division president.
I would record meetings that I'm having with Mick Andreas or Terry Wilson regarding the price fixing. If I'm on the phone with any of the competitors, I would record that.
The group of crooked corporations includes ADM and 4 other producers from Japan and South Korea.
Each tape builds upon the last tape, and we need to identify fully who all is involved in this conspiracy.
The FBI hooks Whitacre up with a James Bond-style bag of tricks. They replace his everyday briefcase with an exact duplicate that has a tape recorder inside.
Then they also had, for really important meetings, some kind of Nagra recorder that they would put a belt around me underneath my shirt, and they had this recorder hooked to it.
The case will become known as Operation Harvest King. It's a reference to ADM's involvement in the grain industry. March 17th, 1993. Whitacre finally records a conversation within ADM's headquarters.
I show up to work that day, my heart beating 1,000 miles an hour, and I turn the recorder on like he told me to do. And I've never been undercover in my life, and there was no training.
What'd you think of that?
FBI agents have instructed Whitacre to bring up a recent price-fixing meeting with his colleagues, Mick Andreas and Terry Wilson.
For me, I have to go up to Terry Wilson and say, hey, Terry, remember a month ago when the Japanese said that we should be going up a nickel a pound here soon?
You guys remember that meeting we had to go back about Mexico? Yeah, it was.
And it was really strange to recreate something like that. It wasn't the norm for me, and I'm surprised they didn't see it as strange.
Over the next few months, Whitacre meets his FBI handlers in parking lots or hotel rooms to drop off tapes and brief them on upcoming meetings.
Probably talk a little bit more about price fixing.
And I met with them quite often, sometimes a couple nights a week, sometimes till midnight, giving them tapes. And it became a second job. It became a tremendous amount of work.
Mark Whitacre's wife, Ginger, worries about her husband's undercover work. She believes that ADM, rife with criminal activity, is capable of worse, even murder.
My biggest fear is that if they found out that Mark was wearing a wire and working for the FBI, that they would kill him. I mean, it would never be like as blatant as just shooting him, but I believe that they would, if Mark was on the company plane, it could have a crash.
October 1993. By now, Whitacre is reveling in his new role as an informant. He's taping conversations and meetings all over the world: Paris, Tokyo, and Vancouver.
He was joking with the agents. He wanted them to call him 014. And they said, "Why do you want us to call you that?" And he said, he laughed. And he said, "Because I'm twice as smart as 007. And so he was into it.
They told me that I was a good informant. They told me, as I've been told a few times, one of the best informants they've ever had.
October 25th, 1993. Whitacre tips off the FBI. Two leaders in the price-fixing cartel are meeting in Irvine, California. It's the first time ADM Vice Chairman Mick Andreas and one of his Asian co-conspirators are meeting in the U.S.
This probably was going to be the only time these two people were going to meet with each other, and knew that it was so significant that we had to get it right.
The room's been fitted with microphones and a camera. Next door, the FBI agents watch corporate crime unfold.
So we got 14,000 tons of growth in 1 year. So the question is, who gets that growth?
The men run the numbers,
It doesn't matter whether we believe each other or not.
determine the market's growth, and then divvy up the new supply among the cartel. A system guaranteed to keep lining their pockets.
So they want 2. Kiowa wants 2.
Didn't say anything.
Let's give them 2. I'll give them 2.
The vice chairman of ADM was sitting right there dictating the terms of the illegal agreement. It was absolute dead to rights evidence of a criminal conspiracy to commit price fixing.
Do you agree this? 2, 2, and 2?
It's a home run for the FBI. That is, until Whitacre thinks he hears something, and it's coming from inside his briefcase.
It was a small room, it was a quiet room, and all of a sudden I heard this clicking sound. It was my briefcase, which was the briefcase the FBI gave me with their recorder.
At first, no one seems to notice, but Whitacre knows if he doesn't silence the device, his cover will be blown.
My heart was definitely beating 1,000 beats a minute.
He makes a brazen move. With his targets just steps away, he opens the briefcase.
And there's a little Velcro platform. It's one of those old reel-to-reel type of tape recorders that they had back in the 90s. And I clicked that a couple times until that sound stopped.
I couldn't believe the risk that he had taken. And what if they had seen the tape recording device?
I had to do it. They weren't in my shoes. I was living this thing. I'm on the front lines there, and I had to do what I had to do.
Once we start talking about,
Mark Whitacre's work is far from over. The Bureau still needs him to build a bulletproof case against the world's largest grain processor. As the FBI's mole, Whitacre is beginning to think he's had enough.
It was just not the life that I wanted. It was a life that I felt that I got boxed into. I wanted it over with.
If he does, the Bureau won't have a case.
When we talked, he would say certain things about, you know, Brian, if I decided I didn't want to do this anymore, I'd just stop. Every day, I would worry about it. I'd say, this could be the end. Today, it could be the end.
Winter, 1994. Mark Whitacre's secret mission as an FBI informant is proving to be too much. The stress of a double life is beginning to take a toll.
I stopped sleeping at night, and I lost my inner balance, and I lost my whole sense of who I really even was. I lost my identity.
His double life leaves no time for his wife and 3 children.
He became a stranger because we never saw him. The children never saw him. You know, he missed every play and every basketball game and anything that was really important because he was either at ADM or he was meeting with the FBI.
March 1994.
Yeah, I think what we need.
During his time undercover, the price-fixing scheme has paid off for ADM. The price of the chemical lysine has doubled from 63 cents to $1.20 per pound. But the FBI still needs its insider to build an airtight case.
We didn't have all of the players, all of the people in the conspiracy. This is a large conspiracy. We hadn't had a chance yet to get them all on tape or on audio and video committing the crime.
For the FBI, the best way to get all the conspirators on tape will be for them to all meet on U.S. soil. But it's not an easy task.
The competitors were very apprehensive. They were aware of the antitrust laws, so they were very reluctant.
We thought and we thought and we thought, and we couldn't come up with a good reason for them to meet here until one day we talked to Mark Whitacre, and he gave us a one-word answer: golf.
They have Whitacre call one of the conspirators in Japan.
I think that our next meeting, since you guys hosted the Vancouver meeting, I think ADM should host the next meeting, don't you think?
Yeah, that's fine.
And maybe we host it in Maui.
Maui, Hawaii is still the United States.
The competitor hesitates.
Yeah, but what's that mean? Still the United States?
Still United States means the United States is very severe for the control of antitrust activity, you know?
That's a smoking gun statement. That's a statement that prosecutors like. It shows intent, it shows knowledge, and so that was a huge statement, a very big tape in this investigation.
Yeah, but you think in a hotel in Hawaii next to an 18-hole golf course?
Maui is very convenient for us, but I don't know. If your company judge, no problem, maybe I will consult with the legal department.
Mission accomplished. March 1994. Honolulu, Hawaii. All 5 members of the price-fixing conspiracy meet for the first time on U.S. soil.
I want to be closer to you than I am to any customer.
Whitacre knows if he can gather enough evidence here, it could be his last act of deception.
They are not your friend.
I had specifically asked him in this meeting that after you believe everyone has agreed to the prices and volumes, ask them simply, are you in agreement? And then poll the room.
You are okay for that? Okay, then very good. Fantastic. So 5 companies agreed for the quantity. That's the first time.
That in combination made us very excited. We had solid evidence of criminal wrongdoing by some very important people.
Just as the operation seems to be making headway, the FBI's informant starts to come completely unhinged. One instance makes Ginger fear for his sanity.
There was one evening, just storming terribly, and looked out the second floor window.
From a bedroom window, Ginger sees Mark outside in the driveway, in the pouring rain, with a leaf blower in his hands.
As fast as the leaves were falling from the trees, he's blowing furiously these leaves, trying to get them off the driveway. And I'm thinking, you know, this is crazy.
There was a point where she was telling him, you need to get back to the family. You need to get back to God. And he responded something along the lines of, I don't need God, I've got more power than God. This was a man in great trouble.
Mark becomes worried that his whistleblowing will cost him his job and his $250,000 salary.
Well, should I lose my job?
He turns to the FBI for assurance that he will be able to maintain his family's lifestyle if he's fired.
I can't support my wife at home.
I said, look, you guys, I got some big expenses. I got children in private school. I have a large home. I'm making a good income. We couldn't do this without ADM.
The agents make a plea to the FBI on Whitacre's behalf. But the FBI won't give Whitacre any guarantees that they'll cover his bills. January 1995. Prosecutors in the FBI are surprised to learn the conspirators are meeting on U.S. soil again, this time in Atlanta.
We saw the arrogance of the competitors. Now they feel very comfortable coming to the United States.
The price-fixing scheme is now well established and highly profitable. ADM has gone from an $84 million loss in 1993 to an $84 million profit in lysine alone. In Atlanta, the mood is light and the cartel is getting cocky.
We really were expecting a few more people there, and one of the Japanese producers made a comment. He said, well, who don't we have? And they just started joking about our competitors.
2 more from Seiwon, 1 from Tyson, 1 from Conagra, 1 from...
Those are the people we were ripping off from those price-fixing schemes. They were making jokes about that. And then one of them actually looked at me and said, and 1 from the FBI.
And 1 from FBI.
Whitacre doesn't think twice about the comment because no one fears he's the mole.
It would take somebody working from the inside for them to ever get caught, and they could never dream of that. That's exactly what I was doing, but they could never dream of that.
June 1995. With the evidence in hand, the FBI prepares for the final step. Their goal is to move in quickly and take the international grain processor by surprise. June 27th. It's the culmination of Operation Harvest King. About 70 FBI agents descend on the town of Decatur, Illinois. They raid the ADM corporate headquarters, confiscating computers and files. They knock on the doors of ADM high-level executives, search their homes, and serve subpoenas.
I was here at this country club at 6 o'clock that evening with Terry Wilson, with our president from ADM Asia, and that's when Brian Shepard and Bob Herndon came to actually interview us.
Terry Wilson, Mark Whitacre.
We approached he and Terry at the same time, acting like Mark was also involved in it.
I'm FBI Agent Herndon. This is my partner, Agent Shepard.
We were doing as much as we could to try to protect Mark at the time.
Please join us in the other room. We'll talk to you separately.
Terry Wilson denies any involvement. The agents hand the 2 men subpoenas and leave. But Whitacre, still wired, records his last conversation with Wilson.
He was talking about, well, we make sure we got to keep our mouth shut, and admitting to a lot of the price fixing that went on, but make sure we don't tell anything. We actually met in this parking lot here in Decatur where I dropped off that tape, and that was the last tape I made for the FBI.
Whitacre's days of wearing wires are behind him, but the FBI informant's troubles are only beginning.
I was thinking finally it's over with. I was thinking only good times are ahead, but how wrong I was.
Get more Undercover Double Life. Go to investigationdiscovery.com. June 1995. After nearly 3 years of an undercover investigation, the FBI has raided ADM's offices. Now, agents want to protect their insider, ADM executive Mark Whitacre. Agent Shepard and Herndon know that the company will immediately assemble a team of world-class defense lawyers. Plus, they expect ADM to launch an investigation of their own to find the mole. To keep ADM at a distance, the agents tell Whitacre he can't use the company's defense attorneys.
So, I mean, we're on the same team.
We advised him to go ahead and find his own attorney who would represent him, and to politely tell ADM, you know, thanks but no thanks. I already have an attorney that will represent me in this matter.
Whitacre hears the agents, but fails to understand the significance of their advice. June 28th, 1995. Just as the FBI predicted, ADM offers their services to Whitacre. Despite the agent's warnings, he accepts.
Why in your right mind, when they're giving you some of the best lawyers that you can get, you can have a team of lawyers paid for by the company, would I go out and choose my own lawyer? It just wouldn't make sense. It would be just like telling ADM that I'm the informant.
It will prove to be a disastrous decision. When Whitacre meets with his company-appointed lawyer, he tries to determine if the attorney is really on his side.
I wanted to really make sure that he represented me, not ADM. And if Mark Whitacre ends up going a different direction than the other defendants, he still represented Mark Whitacre.
Then, Whitacre makes a move that changes everything.
I felt eventually comfortable enough to tell him that I was the informant.
Whitacre quickly senses he's made a mistake.
I will never forget him looking out the window at downtown Decatur. And I could tell then he really did not represent me. At that point, I felt sick in my stomach and I just wanted to die.
The agents who have worked this case for years are shocked that Whitacre could be so naive.
All this time I've spent with him talking about what we want, what we don't want. And in one meeting with an attorney, this all could come crashing down.
ADM prohibits Whitacre from returning to his job, and it doesn't take long for news of his undercover work to spread. His wife Ginger's biggest fear is not knowing if ADM will figure out a way to retaliate.
We just felt unsafe because we kind of knew that ADM is so powerful. If they wanted us dead, they could do it. And what better way to have Mark crack completely would be to harm his wife or his children. It was just the most terrifying time of my life.
ADM's chairman, Dwayne Andreas, owns land near their rural home, and they feel particularly vulnerable.
We saw some type of an SUV and people walking around it. I felt like it was a message from ADM that we're going to intimidate you. We're going to let you know that we can get to you anytime we want to.
Whitacre knows ADM is preparing to fire back at the FBI's star witness. His deepest secret is about to be exposed. August 1995. Whitacre meets his FBI handlers for lunch and prepares them for a shock. He has learned that ADM is combing through his files, looking for anything to discredit him.
He already knows that something's coming from ADM, and so it's not, just this sudden flash of conscience. He's about to be blown up, and he's got to figure a way to control the situation.
I was very nervous to tell them about this. For one, they really had all their confidence in me. I worked with them almost 3 years. So to tell them something that was really going to jeopardize their whole case was definitely not an easy thing to do.
Over lunch, Whitacre starts to talk.
What I'm getting at, I guess, is...
He starts a line of thought of employees taking pens and pencils and how they would be viewed.
Take home a pen and pencil from company?
And if that was criminally wrong. And of course, it was not criminally wrong to take pens and pencils from your employer.
It's nothing. It's pens and
Then, Whitacre poses another hypothetical situation.
Well, you know, a little money under the table.
Well, what if that executive, say, took $50,000 from the company? What are you talking about?
Whitacre claims to be part of an under-the-table bonus plan at ADM, one that funneled profits to executives. He says it was ADM's way of giving executives big bonuses and skipping the taxes, and that he took home $500,000 that way. The FBI's White Knight has turned out to have a dark side. This news puts their entire case in jeopardy.
Translates into a giant fraud. We no longer have a storyteller at trial. We no longer have that corporate executive to put up on a pedestal to tell the jury what happened to ADM, how it happened and why it happened. I'm thinking to myself that our case is blown.
August 1995. The FBI's informant in a multi-million-dollar price-fixing case is now the subject of a fraud investigation himself. Mark Whitacre tells the agents he took $500,000 in kickbacks.
Obviously, the agents believed their case was in great peril because of this. But it was much worse than they knew, because not a single thing that Mark Whitacre told them on that day was true.
In fact, ADM announces it has evidence that Whitacre actually took millions more, and it wasn't bonuses. They say it was theft.
If I wasn't cooperating with the government, they would have never went after me for fraud. I'm convinced of that.
The company has discovered invoices Whitacre made out to fake businesses for money eventually deposited into offshore accounts. What's more, ADM says most of the money Whitacre took while working for the FBI.
When I took the extra money that I took towards that last year, it was really to protect my family if I got kicked out of ADM. So I took matters in my own hand.
But there are more damaging allegations. The corporate giant claims that Whitacre's FBI handlers, Brian Shepard and Bob Herndon, are also on the take. The Department of Justice shuts down communication between the FBI's informant and the agents. Whitacre takes the news hard.
I felt like they got everything they needed and they just kicked me to the curb. And sure, I made some mistakes and I deserved punishment, but it didn't seem like they were willing to work with me at all.
And Ginger watches helplessly as her husband's condition deteriorates.
He non-responsive, didn't care, didn't shave, didn't talk to anyone. I really believe in Mark's mind he did not anticipate this outcome.
August 9th, 1995. Mark Whitacre prepares to end things once and for all.
I just wrote several suicide notes over a few days and just letting them know that I really thought they're better off, that this case, the only way to get this case to go away, if I wasn't there.
In the garage, he turns on the engine of his car. The family gardener discovers Whitacre before it's too late. And Ginger rushes to her husband's side.
I climbed into the back seat because around him in the car were envelopes with people's names on them and family photos and all kinds of things like that, things that obviously he had meant to leave for us, and things I guess that he was looking at when he was there. And it was heartbreaking.
the FBI's key witness is coming completely apart. He's facing fraud charges, and his mental health is in jeopardy. Worse, by committing his own crimes, he's violated his cooperation agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Prosecutors now charge him in the very price-fixing case he helped investigate. It's a move even the FBI agents don't support.
It didn't seem right to be charging our cooperator now with fixing prices. We never would have had a price-fixing case without Mark Whitacre.
Whitacre makes yet another move that no one sees coming.
I was so outraged. At that point, I tried to cut the legs out from under that case, and I tried to destroy the case, because once I was defendant, I had no reason to support that case.
Winter 1997. Whitacre goes on the attack. He claims FBI agent Brian Shepard told him to destroy evidence, and he claims to have a tape that will prove it.
I knew that he was lying. I knew that because I knew Brian Shepard. And Brian Shepard is not the type of person that would ever do that.
He conjured up these things in his own mind, the things that would hurt and destroy me and my reputation. That's, as an FBI agent, if you don't have a reputation of loyalty and integrity, you don't have anything.
He was his own worst enemy, and he's just trying to control his own destiny, and he can't. He has not realized it's not in his hands.
Whitacre eventually admits the accusations against Shepard were made up. The government takes matters into its own hands and manages to salvage its case without Whitacre's help when the international co-conspirators agree to cooperate. ADM executive Mick Andreas is sentenced to more than 2 years. Terry Wilson serves the maximum sentence of 3 years for price fixing. ADM pleads guilty and pays an unprecedented $100 million fine. Today, the agricultural giant still thrives as one of the world's largest grain processors. And the company says things are very different from the days when Mark Whitacre worked there.
We now train all colleagues around the globe in ethics training. We have a strong and clear code of conduct that all of our employees understand. And we're very proud of the relationships that we've built now with customers and with communities to be sure that we are winning together and really earning our results the right way.
Mark Whitacre pleads guilty on fraud charges and receives 9 years in prison. Then, on September 17, 1998, a jury convicts Mark Whitacre for the very price fixing he reported and investigated for the FBI. He's sentenced to another 2.5 years. The agents who worked with him during his years undercover think he got a raw deal.
We felt that certainly the beneficial things that he had done for the government strongly outweighed the detrimental things that he had done. I felt very badly.
Whitacre served nearly 9 years in prison and was released in December 2006.
It was a tough sentence to do. I reflected on it every day. 9 years in prison is a long time.
Today, he is president of operations for a biotechnology company based in California. Mark Whitacre made this one of the most challenging undercover cases the agents ever worked. Even so, they still respect what he did.
In my opinion, he was a national hero. I think he is a national hero. He's just not being recognized for it, and that's a shame. To not get recognition for the biggest antitrust case ever in the history of the country, I just thought was wrong.
I have to look at what he did for the government. And just looking down that road, I felt strongly that he was unjustly sentenced.
Knowing what I know today, I would have just left the company and not got involved with either side. For one, what it did to my family is obviously the biggest regret.
I'm proud of him for what he did. It's not been an easy road the last 15 years, but we got through it. We survived. Despite what ADM wanted, what they said, we survived.